today we'll be looking at the do's and the even bigger don'ts of what you're meant to do when you're doing virtual broadcasting on Zoom, Meets, Teams, and on cameras in your face.
And you can start with the first one. What is wrong with that first square?
Right, the first one, that's with Carol Baskin from The Tiger King. And she's the nemesis of Joe, who's now in prison, incarcerated for trying to kill her. Or is she trying to kill him? I can never work out. But this is what many people do. They say, right, I've got a green screen, but they don't use it. It's no good having a green screen. It just looks green. You look like you're turning into a Hulk, or maybe you're standing behind his belly button. I don't know. But the thing is, you've got it as a chroma key. You're meant to actually superimpose something so it looks like you're somewhere else. If you're using it for green, then you've kind of missed the point.
Exactly. And number two, we have the person which is under the witness protection program. Never, ever use a screen. You know, I like the screen like a window behind you, because if not, you're going to be completely dark and nobody's going to be able to see your face. And that's exactly what you want to avoid.
Maybe that's the point. Maybe it just doesn't want to be seen by anybody, exactly. In which case, congratulations, you've done it just right. Number three, you can see somebody who looks like, do you remember those cartoon things called Chad, where you'd have a guy over a wall and you just see his nose and it'd say, right. What no something, like what no, I don't know, car or something like that. And it'd be like, that's what this guy looks like. So whenever you have your camera, you need to make sure it's framing you properly. Shoulders, maybe top of chest, and then your head's going to be fully in. Ideally, you want to have, and it's just the same as photography, you want to have a sort of distance like that, but your head doesn't actually want to be in the center, it's slightly above it. That's what you need to have. If it's any lower, then all people do is they look at your forehead and they wonder, what is it you're trying to hide? Or maybe you're only a little person. But what it means to people is a look at, and you might be their boss, but they're always thinking, yeah, but you're a little kid to me.
That is correct. Now, in the next one, I think it's just so typical. This is the one that it's having his laptop on his lap, and he's looking at the camera completely like this, or from below. I mean, just look at that double chin. It's just terrible. I mean, you have to really avoid doing that, because that's actually even scary.
It's not even a double chin. It's like a hairy bum. It's not good. It's like his neck is eating his head. And that's never good. And that's a problem with most people. They really don't know about the fact of where you got to set it up so you got a proper studio at home wherever you are. You can't get away with it like this anymore, because before you could get away with it, it was a simple call for 2 or 3 minutes. But now this is how you're working all day. Nobody wants to see up your nose that much. Nobody, not even you.
Fully agree.
Number five now. This is using a typical Zoom backdrop. Now, Zoom gives you a number of different ones you can play with, and they look nice, but everybody's got them. So if that kid is really in front of the Golden Gate Bridge, then there's a very good chance he's planning to jump, in which case stop him now. But luckily, you don't have to worry about that, because it's such a bad setup where I'm not even sure if he's actually got a green screen or he's just superimposing it, but you can see the difference in color. So he's super dark, the backdrop is really bright, and there's no way anyone's going to fall into believing that's a jump. He's only going to fall onto his carpet anyway.
And you know which one is worse? The one that they have the waves, or the one that they seems that they are in the Northern Lights, or the beach. Oh my God, those are just so bad.
Well,
don't use
the
them.
Ones that have those palm trees remind me of that movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where they're in this garden and it's like got giant roses and giant ants and giant everything. That's what it would be like if that really was true. And so if that is really you in a giant garden, then by all means carry on broadcasting. For anybody else, it's a big no-no.
Crazy. Next one is whenever you're going to be off camera, please make sure that you have a proper picture. I mean, get a proper picture. Sometimes it's important to get out of the camera. But what is even more important is that you have your proper name. I have seen people that use their nicknames or their funny names and whatever it is. And whenever you have it there, it just looks so incredibly professional. So make sure to get a nice photograph so that you can have it there. So whenever you have to be off camera, you can also look very nicely.
I also think I've attended a lot of meetings where people don't have their camera on and they just have their name like that. And it feels like you're talking to Darth Vader. And I've been in meetings where nobody's put their cameras on. What's the point in having that meeting? You can't certainly have a first time meeting with people with your camera off because you've got no idea who you're talking to. And the excuse comes in, well, I've not done my makeup, or I don't feel up for it today. Well, be up for it for the 5 minutes or so to have the meeting. But after that, switch it off. I'll be gone. You can go and do your hair or whatever it takes after that. But just stay focused, be on camera. It's common etiquette.
Yeah, the etiquette says, well, if you need to close it for a couple of minutes, it's fine. But if you're going to go for an hour and the full hour you're going to have the name, that just looks very disrespectful also to whoever is presenting, unless the one which is presenting also has their camera off, because of course but the one that says the protocol is the one which is running the meeting.
Absolutely. But if you're going to go with cameras off, you might as well jump onto Clubhouse and then everyone can do the same way.
That is correct.
The next one is being in your face. I mean, seriously, in your face. I don't care what anybody looks like. I don't want to, that's freaking me out, Ernesto. Stop doing it. I don't care what anybody looks like. You don't want to see them that close, because the thing is, it really feels like they're in your space. And if that's how close they are when we're doing a broadcast to you, you're stuck with that all the way through. So that's a huge no-no. Keep your distance. Even if it's virtual, keep a bit of social distancing, because I don't want to be able to draw the outline of your face because I can't get it out of my head for the next 3 hours.
In the next one coming back, we have Mary. And this is once again when you have to go off camera, have a proper picture. I mean, look at that picture. It's a rather unfortunate picture that Mary selected. But it's not only Mary. I mean, you have to be Mary Smith or Mary Jones or whatever your last name is. So make sure that for those moments that you need to switch the camera off, you also look professional.
Well, Mary's looking scary and very, very hairy. It looks like that. Do you remember the Van de Graaff units you used to have at school in the days when people actually went to school, where you put your hand on top of that globe and then your hair would sort of lift up? Yeah. She's clearly playing with one of them. So that gives her a good excuse to not be on camera, to be honest, but I wouldn't use that picture. So the next one here, I don't know if you can tell what's wrong with it, but everything kind of is in place, but in the wrong order. The lighting behind him kind of makes him look like he's dark, like he's a serial killer. The main picture and the focus has to be on the little kitten he's got next to him. You think it's like a glove puppet. And apart from the fact he looks really depressed to be there, which is okay, that's pretty much standard from lockdown behavior. It's just framing the whole thing slightly off. Now, I see most people who think they know what they're doing their shots like this, but set yourself up, do a screenshot, take a look, see whether that is really what represents you, your brand, your company, and what you want people to remember in the future. And the answer is no. Move your camera, change your backdrop, or at least change your t-shirt.
Yeah, that's a very important point, the one of the t-shirt, because he's wearing a bright orange t-shirt, which normally, for example, every time that we are going live, we're trying to use just dark colors, which are just not going to look bad with depending on the lighting and whatever. So I think that's another important point to take into consideration. On the next picture, and this is just one of the most typical. I mean, it's called the pinhead. The pinhead picture, and it is when you are just a tiny little pinhead like that, and you can see it a lot better when you're two people. One person is really close and the other one is very far away. Whenever there's too much space above your head, you're not centered, and that makes you look really, really bad.
And also, it's partly because the nature of the cameras that you have got a slightly concave shape to them. So it's just like when you got a GoPro. If you get too close to a GoPro, it makes your nose look really big and it makes it really close to you. These cameras have a similar kind of shape to them. So even when you move back a distance, it does really make everything slightly distorted. And at least he's got massive hands. His hands are bigger than his head. So if he wanted to squash it into like a ball, he could go ahead. That'll be worth watching. He could keep the rest of his stuff like that. Next, we've got a guy who's been under the threat of the snap from Thanos, from Avengers. So when Thanos collected all the different stones of power and clicked his fingers, 50% of the universe disappeared. And when they started disappearing, they looked like this guy here. So clearly he's waving goodbye to his buffalo and saying goodbye to everybody. Now, this is caused by having a green screen, but actually this is caused by not having a green screen. And so therefore, the filters and the software can't really tell the difference between your head, your beard, and the picture behind you. So it just basically just makes it up and pretends that somehow there's a merge with that. I go back with green screen, maybe, do you remember 20 years ago when we first started using chroma key, when we had our first lot of TV shows? And what I used to do, because of my color of my skin, when I had a green screen behind me, it couldn't really tell what was going on. And so what happened was it would zone out certain parts of my head and put silver in place. So I looked like the Terminator once he'd been for a fight and bits of metal were showing through. It looks really cool, but not great for doing a broadcast with. And clearly this guy's disappearing. So Thanos, snap it again, bring him back.
And the very last one that we have here is possibly you've seen this video from the judge that was having that filter from a cat. And this one I haven't seen that much. However, I think it's important to have there because obviously it's definitely going to make you incredibly unprofessional.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to
can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
So well, it depends on the settings. I mean, it really depends on the session when you're going through. Clearly, the guy had his kids playing on and had a cat filter on, which is cute and it's nice. But then he was in a very important legal setting. And he got a cat talking with a little baby cat's voice while he's trying to make some kind of political or legal argument. And he was so embarrassed, he had to turn around to him entire courtroom setting and say, "I'm not a cat." And that's why it went viral. We know you're not a cat, but you do look like a bit of an idiot, got to be honest. So yeah, those are the definite don'ts to do when you're on camera. Thanks for watching the show. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you watch all the videos over here. There's two choices for you. Or, of course, I'm Dave Crane coming in from Dubai.
And this is Ernesto Verdugo coming from Houston.
And I think we should send a message. Hold on.
What is this?
Subscribe.